the dissonance between the then and now, and the realization that, oh shit, we fucked up. It's just such a different style of movie than any of the others. I think the hubris of Kirk shines through there,
Mhm.
in how the fact that he didn't finish things, and that's kind of a big realization. This guy's got a right to be pissed. He's got a right to do what he's doing. He's just you can't let him do it.
This is City Alpha 5.
Yeah, exactly. The study Alpha 5, exactly. So I think that's one of the reasons that one's probably stands up. I haven't seen it in so long. I just don't know. I'm almost afraid to watch it. Now that I've said all this.
Which movie?
Wrath of Khan.
It still holds up. It's still great.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm always afraid of that. Always afraid of that. It's like you look back at these films with some nostalgia, and you're like, I just don't know if I want to go back and revisit how and see how bad it was when it's viewed from 50.
Having young Savick talk to Spock, you lied. I exaggerated.
That is a great line.
Mhm.
I love that. We're not really here to talk about OST versus TNG versus any of that. We're here to say howdy, folks, and welcome to
Whoa,
another
whoa, whoa,
episode
whoa!
of
What podcast are you on? We are
the
absolutely
Dead
here to talk about this.
Robot
mean, come on.
Society. I'm Paul E. Cooley. Joining me today is Veronica Jaguar and Terry Mixon, as always. Now, wait a minute. We can talk OST, TNG, and do all that all day long, but I thought we'd introduce the show before we completely lost everybody.
It's too late.
Where's the fun in that?
You know, I try so hard, and in the end, it just doesn't even matter.
Maybe if you made, more off-color jokes, it would be okay.
Because I'm enough already. Anyway, that notwithstanding, since we're not going to talk TNG OST, V, tell me something. Get me away from this Terry guy. Tell me something. Occupy me for a few seconds.
Oh gosh, let's see. Been working, been recording. Had auditions that I recorded this week, and that was fun. It's fun to get two auditions that are like completely different from each other. So one's like what I think is fun nonfiction, which is all like economic theory and weird, nifty stuff that I have to research in order to do the audition, which was loads of fun. And then one that's paranormal shifter stuff that is that is far removed from the first and going, yeah, this is fun too.
Is that
So
romance?
I'm sorry?
Is it shapeshifter romance, or is it just
It's always
straight up
romance.
paranormal? Oh,
Nope. It's always romance. Romance is the biggest selling genre, and romance readers are the most voracious readers. So,
Who
people
comes in
like making
second
fun
on
of
that?
romance authors and romance narrators, but bank.
Hey, I don't make fun of them. People
I know.
read what they want to read. It's the biggest genre for a reason.
Yes.
I don't really care as long as they're fucking reading. Christ
Or they're
almighty.
reading. Never mind.
Anyway, what do you think? What is the second genre behind romance in the audio? Do you
I
know?
think it's mysteries.
Mysteries.
Yeah, it's like cozies and mysteries and cats. Cats. Cats.
Yeah, Terry has released the kitties. Terry always releases the kitties.
Regal.
See, doesn't it look like he's running some strange cat dungeon in there? It doesn't look like cat furniture. It looks like some medieval torture or kitty pachinko machine. I just, fur balls are just going to come bouncing down along the lines, making these.
That actually happens more than you would think.
I don't know. I would be all behind this new Plinko. Get on Price is Right.
Kitty
No,
And I
Plinko.
remember
Is it called Palinka or Pachinko?
Plinko, I think it is.
it's called on Price is Right. It's called Plinko.
Okay, I think the actual game is called Pachinko,
It
and I don't
sound yeah.
remember. I don't remember what nationality it comes from, but
It was in
for
a
some
series I
reason-
narrated. I do remember that.
okay. that I'm not completely on it on Planet 9.
On, off, next to, beside.
Excuse me.
Ah,
So you've been busy, is what you're telling me.
I've been busy.
Well,
I've been staying busy and prepping stuff. I got a book I'm recording next week, and putting down words.
Well, that's good to hear.
What about you, Terry?
I've written a good bit. Not every day, but a good bit. I can't complain. Something like 20,000 words this week.
Nice.
So I'll take it. I'll still meet my shortened deadline for this particular book. I'll be happy to get that in. I've set my personal deadline about 2 weeks before the actual deadline because I need to build up a little bit of cushion. And so I'm on course to meet that 2 weeks early. And even if I slip a day or two, I'll still be fine. As long as I can start building up that cushion, that means that I will minimize the gap between Series 1 and Series 2.
Excellent.
What else? Getting ready for the freezing weather and all the high wind we've having down here. The fence between me and my neighbor behind me has fallen down.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. But I paid to have the entirety of the fence around my yard did by myself 20 some odd years ago, so the fence is pretty old. The neighbor behind me is actually more recent than the fence itself. They moved in afterwards. So, but the previous neighbors over there, they demanded that the plats of wood face me and that they get the interior because that's how it was before. And I said, okay, that's what you're getting there. So that makes them responsible for it. Though I'll definitely kick in to help a little bit with the thing because it's an older lady. I don't want to leave her stuck with the price of the entirety of it. But for once, it's not my responsibility that the fence is down.
Leanne says, "Be glad you're not in Alberta, Canada, minus 50°C."
That's
Yes.
pretty chilly.
One of
I
my
lived in
narrator
Calgary.
colleagues, she's in Lethbridge, and she was posting about how it was ridiculously cold, and I'm like, yeah, I solidarity on that one. Good job. Stay warm.
Yeah, no kidding. I barely remember one of the blizzards. Barely remember it. Terry is old, the fence not so much. Yeah. Well, now that the peanut gallery has spoken, what the hell have I been up to? I have been editing on Evolution still, doing another pass through it, finding more stuff I hate, and getting rid of it and making it into something that I would want to read. And so basically doing that, and then also going back and looking at Oceania a little bit and trying to compare some things. I had to get some dates figured out so I can track exactly what happens when in evolution, so I know what happens when in another part of extinction, so I know what happens when we get to the other part of extinction. So this little exercise is helping me shore up all the possible plot holes that might be there before I get to them. So I go back and rework. I may just rewrite some stuff. And I'm thinking about changing a plot line in Extinction because I can. Because it can make it more interesting. So because it hasn't been showed off yet. So that's something I'm also considering. So basically it's been a lot of cogitation and a lot of editing, and then there's been a lot of family stuff going on that I don't even want to get into.
Fair enough.
So basically I'm losing 2 to 3 days a week now to family stuff.
Sadly, that's what happens. While my wife and I were out eating lunch today, a song came on the overhead, and I had this spontaneous plot moment appear to me that I don't know that I'll ever actually use, but it was so fun to think about for a moment as an exercise because it was disco music. And I'm a big fan of disco music, as one knows, And so that's coming on, and I'm going, just imagine, people kidnapped by aliens from the disco era form their own interstellar empire, overthrowing the aliens, and disco is the king of this entire universe, and they come back to bring their societal disco to the benighted home world.
Terry, this is a horror novel. You will never write this. This is definitely a horror novel.
As they come down the ramp.
So does this mean that the title of the first chapter of the first book is going to be is ABBA disco?
Can be.
It can be.
It can be some of it. So is it going to start on the 21st night of December? Sorry, September. I should be smacked for that. And it'll start with "Do You Remember?"
So it's like that could be. There's a radio signal. We've picked up a radio signal. What does it mean?
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Staying alive, staying alive. I can't. I just can't. Without putting my nuts in a vice grip, I cannot reach that pitch.
Their ambassador reaches the bottom of the stairs.
Jesus Christ. This sounds like the far future version of Idiocracy, where it's bad enough society's collapsed, but now the discoites have taken over.
I feel like this was done with Xanadu, but there are no original ideas.
Okay, that sounded fair.
I get to see him now coming down with this wide open shirt with the gold chains and the medallions, and the guy out in the audience goes, "That's a lot of chest hair."
And a lot of tacky gold. Chapter 1, Caught in a Trap, Sister Sledge. Yeah, you basically have all the chapter names with titles of songs.
The interior of the spaceship is gold lame with
and the disco ball over the diplomatic meeting room. I could totally do this. It would be way out of control, but I could totally do this.
William says he hopped on the stream and it's disco.
Oh, and then you can have like the warring faction, and you base it off of like George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, so you have the funk and the disco. No?
Funk and the disco?
Well, we got the warring empires, disco and funk.
Yeah, funk.
Make funk the P-Funk. I wants to get funked up.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Fun fact, when I worked at the university, I used to institute P-Funk Fridays because one of the CDs that I had was the best of George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. And I would get to my office like a half hour early. And I would put that, I'd go turn it on and I would blast it. So and my office was right near the help desk for the university. So where everybody would call in. And so all the students are coming in, getting ready to be on the help desk at 8:00. And meanwhile, I've got funk music playing. And they're like, what the? But the guy who was in charge of that area, he was like, yeah, just turn it up. We're good. I don't care if they don't like it. You like it. We're going to keep going. And then my other friend, she was the manager. And she was like, yep, keep going. I don't care if the kids don't like it. So I just crank it up and start boogieing down the hallway. It was great.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of boogieing down the hallway, I saw a news article today about an emergency room physician in Dallas that on his last day of retiring after 40 years of working in the emergency room sphere as a surgeon, celebrated his last day by roller skating down the halls and just doing his thing.
That's a Green Wing shit right there.
He looked like he was having a good time. He was a happy man.
Oh, no kidding. Can't say I blame him. What is this about? Did you see Disney copyright striking a lot of the Steamboat Willie stuff? Who's making Steamboat Willie stuff?
Well, now that it's in the public domain, a lot of people are, and Disney is apparently striking out at them doing takedown notices, even though it's now in the public domain.
Doesn't that mean that's going to be a problem for them when they get bitch slapped for bringing frivolous lawsuits?
I'm not sure that there's a penalty for it. They're not actually bringing frivolous lawsuits. They're issuing takedown notices.
Which are meaningless if they're not going to back them up.
Pretty much.
Because you can basically fight those, but that is interesting. I'm not shocked. I'm telling you, if you ever want to learn it more than you ever wanted to know about Disney in the 80s and 90s, read Team Rodent by Carl Hiaasen. It's pretty
Personally,
terrifying.
I think that the law should be amended so that the frivolous takedown notices that people use if they get zapped by it not being realistic, not being real, that they have to pay a fine.
YouTube kicks them off. But I can see paying a fine, paying a real fine would be nice. It's
Yeah, that's not going to
infringement of
bother.
Mickey Mouse
It's not going to
trademark.
bother Mickey Mouse. YouTube's not going to kick Mickey Mouse off.
They're not. No, they're
It's
not.
part of the corporatocracy.
Separate from copyright law, they're arguing it is infringing on Mickey Mouse trademark. Interesting. Yeah, well, shit happens. It's all ugly. Welcome to the wonderful world of multi-conglomerate corporations who rule your lives. Wow, this show
So,
got really dystopian.
What are we going to talk about?
Speaking of dystopias, let's talk about a dystopia that we all have to live with a little bit. We've
Teenagers?
touched on this.
That's just me.
We did touch on this.
Cats? I have lots of cats.
We did touch on this. Well, you shot up a week or two ago, but I thought we'd run through a little bit again because I've been banging my head against this, so I figured I would bring up a couple of things, and that's editing. Not talking about the editing you do for your beta readers, those slackers. No, you.
Wait.
No.
Do we do editing for our beta readers? I thought we just threw it in just the way it is.
That's the way you're supposed to do it. You just basically write it on a piece of toilet paper and toss it over the fence to see if they can make sense of it.
Yeah, no.
That's what beta readers are for, isn't it?
Do you want to get good feedback? I mean, garbage in, garbage out.
Thank you. So, what are some things that you probably should look at before you send it to an editor or hand it over to your beta readers? What are some things you should probably look at? I made a little list.
Made a list.
And I'll get to the philosophy.
He
in
made a
second.
list. He's checking it twice. Oh, wait, we're a month late for that.
I still have to take my tree down, so you're fine.
Oh my God.
Took everything else down.
So tell
Tense
us your
changes.
list.
Tense changes. Unintentional ones.
Do people have tense changes?
Yes.
Yep.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
I don't have tense changes.
You're a boring writer.
I very rarely have somebody point out that I've inadvertently changed tenses because I don't write anything other than past tense.
Yes, but then you have super past tense and all that other bullshit. You got
Super.
have done
Wait,
this,
hang on now.
done
I need a definition. What the hell is super past tense?
I can't remember the fucking grammatical things, okay? But there's some super thingamajiggy one of the. Well, I don't remember. I don't remember my linguistics and English grammar to save my fucking life.
If you can't tell me any more about it, I don't believe it exists.
You can have conditional past. You can have
Conditional past. That's one. Yeah.
like
So,
would have, could have.
Yeah, think
Should
about
have.
if I'm sitting there thinking about I'm in the past tense, right? My character is doing something in the past tense, but if they had thought about something earlier, they had thought about it. They changed tense.
You know, that makes my brain hurt. I think that's overworking it.
Maybe that's why you don't change because you're like, I don't have to think. I'm
You know,
sticking to the
I
story.
am
This is the lane.
I am actually thinking about the next series having the main character be first person and everybody else be third person.
Uh-oh.
So
Uh-oh.
that may introduce a little bit of, screwing up there, but it's not going to change the fact that it's still going to be past tense.
Right. But see, this is still past tense. We're talking about how you handle maybe a flashback, how you think about a thought that somebody had earlier, stuff like that.
I rarely dig into things like that. I'm flow of consciousness when I'm writing. Maybe that's the reason I don't run into those problems.
Anyway, the more complex that your storytelling is, the more chances you have to fuck this up.
Are you sure this is not just literary foo-foo that we're talking about?
Fuck's sake, Terry, no it's not. Don't make me reach through here and grab you and throttle the fuck out of you. Just because you write very simplistic sentences that have 5 syllables or less does not mean the rest of us do. My God!
I think I may have stepped on his insole there a little
Holy
bit.
fucking shit, man! Stop dancing on my dick! Fuck!
And there is your quote for the show. Although we do still have 40 minutes, so who knows? We could even get beyond dancing on one's dick.
Oh, I'm gonna kill him. I'm just gonna fucking kill him.
So aside
Tim
from checking for
says
tenses,
Tim says that I almost certainly change tense in dialogue. And that's true because you don't have people when they're actually saying words say things in past tense. But I don't inappropriately change tense is what I'm saying. Maybe that's because of the way I write. And then JR says, put your dick away.
No. Is this better on volume?
Paul is softer, or is Terry just shouting? Maybe, I can't hear myself. I may just be shouting.
Is this any better? Yes, no, maybe.
everything sounds balanced to me, but
Okay. All right, I'll leave it as is before something terrible happens. Terry is just shouting yes. All right, now that I've been told to put my member away, the reason I bring this up is because if you have flashbacks or if you're telling a story out of order or the character's thinking back on something because they're in that break, then you need to make sure that you've got the tense. And of course you've got the trick where you can basically use past had and then jump into, or had and then jump into regular past tense for the rest of it, and then pop back out the other side by using the same trick if you want to set something like that up. But you got to make sure you do it very carefully or you're going to get the reader confused. So what may seem simple to you is something you may have actually missed in thinking about it or reading it again. So it's something to look for. It's something to look for. Making sure time changes make sense and don't jar the reader, which kind of goes along with this. You may need to put those 3 or 5 asterisks in between to note that we're changing time here. So that first sentence can say, basically establish, are we in the past, are we in the past, or are we in the present past? That make any damn sense at all?
it did, because you have to make sure that you're cueing your reader where your setting is, because setting is not just place, it's also time.
Right. So I think that's another one that people don't often think of because it doesn't jump out at you immediately necessarily if you're reading it as the person who wrote it. You may just take it for granted that you've done your job there, and you may not have. And of course, these are all mea culpas. And I'm going to say the biggest one that is the dumbest one and that everybody should know, which is run spell check. Don't forget to run spell check. Please, for the love of God, don't forget to run spell check.
Yes.
Run Grammarly. Not all of it. Just the part that talks about spelling, commas, and the such like that. That'll clean up enough things that it'll make your editor's job a lot easier.
Yeah. And the basic of, what there are you using? Are you using a place? Are you using a possessive? Are you using a contraction? How are you using its? Does it need an apostrophe? Does it not need an apostrophe? Those little things.
Pesky apostrophe at the end of the S because it's possessive.
Yeah. Your as in possessive, or your as in contraction.
Or yours in
I
your.
mean, yes.
Y-O-R-E, your.
Something audio cues may not help you with.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, because I've been asked to beta read stuff and I don't have a problem with it, but if you're asking someone to beta read, you need to be able to say what you want from them, and you need to know that whatever copy you're giving them is free of visual and grammatical distractions.
That's a good way of putting it.
Because if I'm pulled out of your story because of your spelling and your grammar and your your wrong word choices or your like homophones, substitutions, all that, I'm not going to be able to give you feedback. I'm just going to get annoyed. I mean, it's the whole thing. Like, you can't enjoy a meal in a restaurant where there's a kid behind you screaming in your ear.
Yeah.
It's just, it could be the best, bacon cheeseburger you have ever had in your life, but it's going to taste, substandard because you can't enjoy the experience. And it's the different. So Timothy says, to me, this stuff isn't really edits. You're more discussing what I think of as polish or cleanup, but that's just semantics. And it is because, I mean, it's still a type of editing. So, I mean, what types of editing are we talking about?
Multipass.
Multipass. Lilu Dallas multipass?
So
You're talking about multipass editing is what we're talking about.
Tim says, to me, this stuff really isn't edits. You're more discussing what I think of as polish or cleanup, but that's just semantics. And what we're talking about is what we do before we pass it on to the editor. Because we're not editors. We don't do our own editing. This is the part we handle ourselves. What are you smirking about?
Nothing. You're very correct. But what I would say is what I'm doing is the editing is the first couple of passes, yes. But you know what those edits are? There's the first edit that I'm looking at for continuity problems. I'm looking at the story and making sure the pacing is right. Okay, now while I'm there, I'll probably do some cleanup. I may find some shed sentences. I may find some dialogue that's incorrect. And I make the edits appropriately and we'll rewrite some sentences. I get to the end of the book. All right, now I'm confident the story is where it needs to be. Then I go back. And then I go and I start looking chapter by chapter and going through. And if I've made any notes, which I do on that pass when I'm just checking the story, I'd make notes. Does this need to be fixed? Is this correct? Blah, 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 blah. And that's when I go back and I check my notes in Scrivener for each one of those chapters and see if something's there. I'll look at all the notes like I'm doing with Evolution right now. Look at all of them at once and find the ones that interest me because I may find more than one instance of them referencing one another. So I'll take a look at those first before I go through anything else. That's my new way of doing things. And that means I'm going to make probably 4 passes. And the cleanup polish one that you're talking about, by that point, all this other shit of rewriting sentences should be done. It should just be finding things where I missed an apostrophe, I missed a comma, I missed something along those lines. That's where it should be. That's where I'm trying to get anyway. Because I don't have minions to do this stuff for me.
Right.
So I got to do as much of the job as I can and get it done. What in the Evan lovin' hell? Have you seen the TikToker who has the spray bottle and reads and edits smut and romance in real time on her channel?
I'm not sure what she would use the spray bottle for.
Terry, why do you ask questions you don't want answers to?
That, and I hope she has the permission of the authors that she's working with for that one.
Reads and edits. I assume she's the one writing it? Maybe not.
Either that or she's randomly picking stuff that she's not actually paid to do and just making snarky comment. Yeah. I don't know.
Smirkingly? Oof. What's wrong was said with a smirk? Or smirking, he said. What's wrong with those
Or you can
things?
just say some dialogue, comma, quotes, he smirked.
Comma, bite me.
Or period, he smirked.
She's doing it as a reader, not the author or pro editor. Ah.
Yes, but I still want to know what the water bottle is for.
Because she gets the vapors.
Oh my! I've got to spray myself down because I'm a little.
Yeah, my thought is, it would, we have cats. I'm thinking the spray bottle is some type of strange disciplinary thing.
That's where I went too. It's like, who is she disciplining? Which cat is this?
Like, no, you can't use that as you. That is not a proper euphemism for a male organ. No, don't do that.
He said stoutly.
Stoutly. She sprays the phantom author. Oh.
So it was. Yeah, see, I would rather have work And I can't, I don't think that's necessarily the best way to, I mean, if you're a reader and you don't have any reason to, make friends with, authors and, encourage and uplift, sure, go ahead. But romance gets enough of a bad rap.
He said
And-
girthily.
Girthily? This is why I have a shirt that says I'm a confirmed setist. Okay? Smirkingly, no. There's a better way to do that, goddammit. Agonizingly, masturbatorially. I mean, come on. There's just better. I shouldn't have said that. There are better ways to handle. I'm still tripping over.
Better ways. He shouldn't have used that word. Better ways to handle. No, probably shouldn't have used that.
Yep, stepping on it again.
You're a hands-on kind of editor with that, right?
Manipulating the text, massaging the words,
getting every last drop out of your effort.
It would have been more ironic had I turned the other side of the cup, which says, "Have you tried turning it on and off again?"
Well,
what the fuck was I saying before you guys dragged it down to genitalia?
I don't know, and I don't care anymore.
I think we were talking about so there were adverbs and
Oh yeah. Cut that crap out.
Yeah.
There's a better way to do that. Better way to do that.
I try not to use adverbs in dialogue tags, although sometimes I do. Sometimes I think it's appropriate. Like if I'm saying something, and even though the tone of what's being said is, pretty firm, pretty dark, I'll say, "She said grimly," on occasion, because I want to emphasize exactly what's happening there. Just because it's an adverb doesn't mean that it's always verboten.
No,
it just shouldn't be
not.
used. It shouldn't be used overly much. But there are
Yes.
times with everything
Right.
that it can be used.
Right. Well, if I read a book and every paragraph has an ly in it as a dialogue tag, I'm gonna throw it across the fucking room because it's just lazy.
What do you think about exclamation points?
Spare. And
How
dialogue.
spare is spare? I've read somewhere that an entire novel should have no more than one or two.
I think it depends
What do you
on
think
genre.
about that?
It depends on genre.
I don't
would
tend to
go
use
for
them
that.
very much, but I have been known to use a couple
Thing
at
to
a time.
check. Let's see.
Okay. You go potty? Hang on.
He's going to go take care of Puppy Pup.
Oh no, there's one. No, that's a question.
Y'all can talk while I'm gone.
We can talk right now. She's
can.
looking at something, so I'm letting her look.
I'm looking at the script that I'm prepping to record next week, and I'm checking to see if there are any exclamation points. And
I think exclamation points are, again, the less they're used, the better. I try and use them if I use them, I'm going to use them in dialogue typically. And it's going to be when I want to separate a point from the rest of what's going on. And I probably will use them in the middle of a sentence rather than the beginning of a sentence or the end of a sentence. Usually, if basically the character is speaking in a paragraph, I will do it that way because that exclamation point allows the narrator, for instance, to have a point where they make that statement and the next statement's in a normal voice or a lower voice. That's hard to describe. But if you kind of give the levels, the rise in pitch and what they're saying, as well as the cadence, then I think it starts to come through.
yeah, and you can talk about, voices rising. You can say stuff passionately. You can, punctuate words. I think if you're setting stuff up, I saw that, Matt. So Matt said, would all caps be better? And what I've seen is people will go from, they'll go from just dialogue and standard type if you want to stress a word, then it'll be in italics. Sometimes yelling is all italics if it's within quotation marks. And then you might get caps in italics in dialogue. But it's very rare, I think, that you're going to see dialogue in caps without some other kind of font manipulation.
The only real breaking rule I can see to that is A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving, where whenever Owen speaks, it's in all caps. And the reason is because his voice is described as extremely loud and gravel choked, even when the kid was a kid. So the voice is a integral part of the story, and therefore whenever Owen speaks, it's in all caps.
Okay.
And it is throughout the entire book. It's consistently wrong.
It's
Which is why
literary,
it
so it
works.
gets to be.
I don't know if I'd call that book literary.
It's studied in English classes. It's literary.
That's because it's a goddamn good book.
Well, I mean,
It's magical realism. It's a great book. Anyway, Tim says Robert Jordan and Terry Pratchett used all caps for certain characters' dialogue. For Pratchett, it was just for Death himself. I can see that. And Williams says consistency is more important. Exactly.
It's
If
true.
you're going to break the rule, make it consistent. If you make
Yeah.
it consistent, the reader will come on board. If you don't, they're going to be confused.
Matt said, imagine a drill sergeant without exclamation marks. And my comment responding to him is a good drill sergeant doesn't need exclamation points.
I wasn't in the military, but I would say that a drill sergeant who speaks softly and does more with their countenance and varying what they say and where they put the emphasis on the syllables is much more terrifying than somebody just screaming at me.
Yeah, that the good drill sergeant, you can see the stuff that Ermi did in portrayal of a drill sergeant. He was an old school drill sergeant, and he played basically doing what he did in movies like Full Metal Jacket. So you get to see what a real drill sergeant acts like there. I admire your honesty. Where obviously he does not admire your honesty.
Yeah, they have. It's just a different style of speaking, and if I remember correctly, in the Short Timers, which that movie is based off of, they captured that really well how he spoke, and I think a lot of that is verbatim from the book, but I can't remember. Some of it is. I know that much. Wall-to-wall canceling for the win.
well,
Anyway,
I think, but that's a good point. You know, looking at, I guess, in your editing passes and looking at your characters, are there levels to their emotions and are there levels to their reactions? Because if you're going through and you're checking on consistency, do your characters, are they consistent in who they are, but are they inconsistent in the emotion that they put through? You don't want someone to be stale throughout the whole book, because that's just boring. So consistently inconsistent.
one of the most deadpan characters in action movies is probably John Wick. And there's one scene where he finally loses his shit. And it is so out of character for that character that you know at that moment he is not just going to kill everybody, he is going to slaughter everybody. It has changed because
Oh yeah, I think I'm back.
back. That moment right there is when that character, the way he pronounces that, even if it was in a book, the way he says that, the way his face looks, the break in his countenance, the break in that calm demeanor, the fact that that's all fractured and shattered and on the floor means it's done. Anything that was human has been burned away. There is just vengeance left. And it's a powerful moment.
I am become death, the destroyer of criminals.
Yeah. So I think that's an example at when it's done right, because the characters consistently just chill all throughout that. You know, even when he's fighting, he's pretty chill. So when you get to the end and that shit happens, it breaks everything. It is it's the last vestige of any cool that he had is fucking gone. From then on, it's just raw emotion and hatred carrying him through. And if you can bring that to a book, wow. If you can make that moment work with a character who's very, very taciturn, then I think you've accomplished your goal. If you can make the reader feel that. Plus, it's just a cool moment to have. It's that reckoning where it's just kind of like, yep, time to close the door and take care of business. Oh boy.
And Julius has arrived. The reckoning that is Julius.
This reckoning started pre-show. We knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. So there's just some thoughts I had on editing while we were talking about that, since you two brought it up in Discord.
Was there anything else on your checklist?
Dangling participles.
Oh my gosh, you should zip that up.
Exactly.
Have you ever watched Oscar with Sylvester Stallone?
No, I refuse.
They have Tim Curry as the elocution expert that's trying to teach him how to speak better. And one of the gangsters comes in and says something. Says, "Oh, such and such, your participle is dangling." The gangster gives him this look, and then he turns around and he's like bending over.
A participle, usually at the beginning of a sentence, apparently modifying a word other than the word intended, i.e., flying across the country, and flying across the country, the Rockies came into view. So basically, it's got no subject that it's tied to, and it's really easy to fuck that up. So
that's where a real editor says, "Yeah, this doesn't make any sense."
Yeah, that's where a real editor comes along and says they don't make any sense. Or after they clue you into this doesn't make sense, you start looking for the goddamn thing popping up in your writing because you know you do it.
Yep.
And it's not because you don't know what you're saying; it's because you fucked up in how you wrote it.
It happens.
It happens.
It
happens. Especially when you're pounding through the words and trying to get up with those as quickly as possible. You're on a roll. You're going to miss stuff like that. That's why those editing multi-passes are important. My humble opinion. William says, one of my old bosses was a Marine drill sergeant. He can make you feel utterly comfortable or very, very not. I can see that.
That is a skill set.
Yes, it is. Do they
So
teach
what
that, or is it
about-
just absorbed?
They have drill sergeant school, and part of it is absorbed and part of it is taught.
You were saying, V?
Do you have anything else on your list?
Those are the ones that I came up with, apart from, we've talked about multipass versus cycling, which is where you basically are doing a multipass on the paragraph you just wrote, or the chapter you just wrote, or whatever else. I'm not ready for that. Terry's tried it.
I can't do it while I'm doing it. I have to wait till I finish the book and then make a single pass through it again. That's how it works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about you, V?
I can. So I used to sit down and like read what I'd written before, like chapters before. And now what I've done, because I've realized that like, oh, I need to switch this up. I don't go back and touch what I did before. I make a note in the margin, like, okay, so when you go and type this in, then make sure you change this. But one of the other things to go in your editing passes are to look for word frequency. Are there words that you use a lot? Or are there words that show up often in the same like chunk of pages? Because sometimes when you're sitting down and you're writing for your writing session, you might get fixated on a couple different words, and you might use them repeatedly. Maybe it's a verb, maybe it's an adjective to describe something, but you used it a couple times. And you may not realize that you used it, or maybe you stopped writing for the day and then you pick up the next day or the day after. And because it's back to back, you've used the same word.
That's actually the most comments that I get from the editor for the Last Hunter series, is where I've repeated words in a couple of 3 paragraphs.
Yeah. And that's one that can sneak up on you really, really hardcore, because you get stuck on this describes this perfectly and you just keep using it because it's simple to keep using. When you go back and look at it, you're like, fuck, I used that 3 times in 2 paragraphs. What the hell am I doing? And then you have to go back and you rephrase it. And sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but it's the right thing to do.
The one that stands out to me where it was hard to fix was about 4 paragraphs where I was talking about how they were configuring the fighter bays to hold the fighters, and I used the word fighters like 6 times, 7 times in that stretch.
The crafts,
and I was like,
the vehicles, the blah blah blah.
but it's referring to multiple different things. I'm like, gosh, this is hard to call it out as much as I would like.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just impossible. Sometimes you just have to describe the door, right? Well, there's only so many ways you can get away with not having to refer back to the door again, depending on the complexity of what you're doing. So there are times where you gotta basically cut bait on that, but more often than not, there's a better word you could use for that, or 3 or 4 words might make the right space for it, or you can move when you use that word. Maybe it's best if you use that word in the last reference where you would have used it, because it's more powerful that way. It's basically be consistent in that too. Leanne says Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness repeated several phrases over and over again, a musical piping over a wide range. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get paid
Although
by
with
the word.
Lovecraft,
In those
I'd
days,
imagine
everybody
it was-
got paid by the word.
What, V?
Well, that, and it might have been purposeful, because Mountains of Madness, you're hitting that point home over and over again. And sometimes stylistically, yeah, you are going to repeat certain phrases because you're going for, again, more literary, but you're going for a mood or a sense or
I think in some ways Lovecraft was just a frustrated poet.
I'm not sure that he was necessarily frustrated. I mean, didn't he do poetry?
I'm sure he did, but I'm talking about even his longer works like Mountain of Madness. The repetition is another a poetry trick. Basically you're using that same rhyme again. See J. Alfred Prufrock by fuck me, man. The guy who did The Wastelands. T.S. Eliot. Yeah, thanks. Somebody tell me these things. The repetition is a key element, and can be, depending on how it's used at that point. I would find that very annoying if I came across that particular phrase over and over again. And I haven't read that story in forever. I may have to go back and read that now. Mm-hmm. Musical piping over a wide range.
Like Poe, Lovecraft began writing significantly more poetry than fiction, and at one point considered himself primarily a poet.
Shows you how much I know Lovecraft. But I think even his fiction, a lot of it, like the Color from Space, that's got a lot of poetic devices in it, even though I wouldn't call it.
I'll paste this in the live channel so that the link will be there.
Oh, I don't believe you.
It is done.
Terrible, man. Terrible, terrible, man. So you can think about it, any other instances of repetition?
filler words.
Filler words?
Really, just.
I do look for those. I actually have a macro in Word that I run as part of my editing to look for phrases or words that I've been told I overuse, so that I can cull them down a little bit.
I usually do that. I bring up the word fuck and see just how many instances I have, and if it's under
So
50, I'm good.
is that the only word you're concerned about
It's like,
overusing?
is that a badge of honor?
Shit,
I
no.
mean,
I'm worried about one. I'm worried about facade. I'm worried about jittery. I found like 7 instances of jittery within like 10 chapters of evolution. It was bad.
What are the beta readers? I use the word protege fairly often in there, talking about some of the characters, and I'm not sure if this is, over the top or being just a little too much, but he kept pointing out that when I use the word protege, but it's for a woman, there's an extra E in it. And I'm like,
yes.
okay, I had no idea, but all right, that seems a little picky, but sure, we'll go with that.
No, it's like it's think of like the rules for using fiance. Same thing. Darn the French.
I didn't even know that. I hadn't thought about that either, but okay, there we go.
Matt says I found out I had to really cut back on the word actually. I used it way too much. Isn't that all you Brits? I watch your TV. I know how you speak. Antoine says Paul finds where he uses fuck and then copy and paste it again to make it twice as good.
You know, he started going ahead and using the word fuckily.
Fuckily, oh my god. Like fuckalicious, dude.
Oh God.
Yeah, try to unpack that word. I dare you.
I say nothing.
It's fuckily delicious.
It's fuckily delicious. Oh, we gotta put that in the porno. Oh my god. That goes on a commercial that's shown inside a porno, I'm telling you. Like robot chicken style.
Oh my God. A galactic empire of kidnapped porn stars.
Dude, what is with you and the kid? Are they also going to be disco? Of course they are, because everything's
yeah.
porn.
And they're all going to have these mustaches.
Yeah, you got to have the mustache.
Even the women are going to have these massive mustaches.
The women's have mustaches somewhere. Actually, they have full beards somewhere else. That was the 70s. That's a
That was
completely different
dwarves.
topic. Huh?
I thought that was dwarves.
Female
Whoa.
dwarves have beards and mustaches.
Oh. Never mind. Matt says, I suppose because we're usually right and love correcting people and so modest about it too. Why they use the word actually. Isn't that Slaughterhouse 5? Yeah, you might be right about that. Yeah, the Truffle-Midorians.
I don't get
never
it.
read
What does
that,
that
you
mean?
should.
What is that from?
From Slaughterhouse 5,
I see.
the book.
Is something
How can you not
vibrating?
have read?
I sort of hear something.
Sorry, that's my dryer.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
pretty sure. Sorry. Yeah. This is why I can't run laundry while I'm recording, because obviously be really bad.
Hack the porn star.
I'm
You know, Houston.
I will have to tell
ago,
you about a book I'm listening to
Okay,
during
go
the
ahead.
after show.
Oh, the
no.
after show.
Oh, I'm gonna wait till after dark because the plot on this is definite after dark material.
Okay, good to know. I was
So
gonna
if you
say,
want to hear it and you haven't subscribed, you should,
Or you should just, tip a little bit on to buy me a coffee and drop in
yeah.
for once.
Yeah, get those unique book recommendations.
then you can hear about the robot brothel.
I'm all
insert
ears when we get to
25 cents to
this.
continue.
Well, yeah, 18 minutes. Yeah, 18 minutes from now, we'll talk about robot brothels.
Please insert and turn the key.
As long as Bender doesn't work there, I guess we're all right.
So we should stay away from the sign that says hookers and blow? Really?
Shut up, baby, I know it. I love Bender. Of course I love Bender. Bite my shiny metal ass. There we go. The robot brothel, the only time it's acceptable to use WD-40 as lube. Matt, save it for the after show. We have so much to talk about. We'll make my own after dark with blackjack and hookers. Well, okay then. You have fun with that. I can't compete with that. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to try. You have fun.
You're going to have to keep working on that, because if you're going to try to catch up with, Hunter Biden, you're going to have a lot of work on your hands.
Wow.
All the videos of his that leaked out there with hookers and blow. I mean, you're going to have to work really hard to catch up with those.
Have you seen Scarface? Fuck the blackjack. Screw the whole thing. Sad. So any last thoughts on editing?
Do it. Don't skip it. It actually is important.
It's not important. What are you talking about? Incredibly important.
Super
Incredibly
important.
Don't tick off your editor. We'll stop taking your calls.
Yeah.
Bad
And
thing.
also don't ever assume that your narrator is going to edit for you, because there are
God.
people who have posted stuff they've been using ACX or something else, and they've gone, oh, well, if you find an error, you can just edit it and let me know. No, that is not my job, because I know what the going rate for an editor is. And after about the 6th one, I, honest to goodness, delight in narrating exactly as it's there, because I'm still going to get paid.
Tiara says
And
Red
if-
Adept is awesome. They use them as editors.
They are.
Reddit up is
Use
awesome.
Terry's name. Tell them Terry sent you.
I'll get extra red adept points, although I don't know what I was supposed to use them for.
Free edits.
Yeah, but you got to have a lot of them. I don't
You
know
do.
that. I don't know that I'll ever get that many points.
All right, fine. Give them to me then. I need them.
Can you
Tell
get
them I
your
sent
points?
you.
Are they transferable?
I
Who
doubt
knows?
It. I doubt it very much. I doubt it very much. So Grammarly, you use a version of Grammarly, Terry?
I use the premium version of Grammarly, but I only use the correctness portion. It's broken into subsections of what you check.
Mhm.
The correctness ones involves things like misspelled words, commas, missing words, that sort of thing. I use that and accept 90% of what it suggests because I agree with it. If I looked at the other stuff, I reject 90% of what it suggests, so I don't bother wasting my time going through them. And it saves me a lot of time just using that one part.
Okay.
And my editor is quite pleased with how clean the manuscript is when it comes with just that.
Okay, so you're doing that even with variant.
Yes. I would not send in something because since I use a Dragon Naturally Speaking to go ahead and do my first draft, even when I go through it again, I miss things. There are words missing. There are things that my brain just fills in that I think are there that aren't really there. And it catches those, and it makes it better.
Oh, okay. Good to know. So that's our advice on that. What do you
Sugar Daddy likes it when I do that.
Yeah, you don't want to use
like
Daddy Warbucks because I would rather imagine, Terry sending his stuff off, and getting the nod of approval from a guy with a big old leopard print hat with a purple, feather in it versus just some really grumpy bald guy.
When he gets my manuscript, he looks at it and he goes, "Oh, yeah."
Instead of a pimp stick, he beefs him with a checkbook.
Right. What do you hear? Check. Right.
Because we also don't necessarily want to imagine Terry as Little Orphan Annie. So.
Oh, we got a
I
question
think I'm
for
gonna like it
Facebook.
here.
Used dictation. I tried it and gave up pretty quick. Seemed inaccurate. Required a lot of post editing on my part. What was the learning curve for that? Do you find yourself having to edit a lot of vocal to text errors?
I have used voice to text for probably 30 novels at this point, and it does pick up what you're training. It does get better with use, and there are still times where I have to go back through and correct it. That's why I dictate the first draft, and then I give it a read through, and I fix things as I go along. Is there more things that I have to fix than I would as if I was typing it? There are, but I'm a slow typist. I really come out ahead on the time frame. It saves me a lot of time. It makes me produce faster. And I don't think I could go back at this point. I am so used to dictating now that if I tried to type it out, I think I would go crazy.
Wow. Makes sense.
Now,
I
here's,
get used to it.
Paul, cosplay is coming up at Author Nation. So should I rock that Little Orphan Annie dress?
Terry, there are people who can fill out a dress. There are people who can detonate a dress. And I'll let your imagination figure out which one you are in between those.
Boom, baby.
Boom, baby. Although I would love to see you rock that, I will be more than happy to take pictures of it and put it on our Facebook group and page and everywhere else. Shit, I'll make it our icon.
How much extra work does your editor get you to do in general at this stage in my career? I fix little things, and if I'm told that a section of the work maybe could do with trimming down because it's bogged a little bit or something like that, I'll at least think about it. I will clean it up. There's points where I may or may not agree. If the editor suggests something and I'm ambivalent about it, I'll probably go ahead and make the change. If I believe that I'm correct, I'm not going to make that change.
It depends. And sometimes editors misunderstand something and don't get it.
What are the things that the editor commented that I thought was really peculiar? And this is no slam on the editor because she's really good at what she does. Since I am doing third person when I'm doing this, there are parts where like the character's eating something and makes the comment in the narration text, I ate this such and such. It was delicious. And she says, this is third person, so this shouldn't be there. I'm like, I totally disagree. I think it should be there. I have no idea why third person can't enjoy a good taco or something. I'm not sure.
It's authorial. I can see technically, the editor's correct.
Yeah, it's
Author
consistency. It's
voice-wise,
maintaining.
totally incorrect. Because that could be your style as far as I do that too. I have the narrator comment on shit all the time, and I just break it out a little bit. And
I'm not sure how would you, why, I guess I don't really get why a third person can't have a comment in their head. I mean, it's not italicized. Is that it? Is it a thought and
that
they
was
can't?
The break.
Is that the break? Well, I don't
that
care.
Was the break.
Meh,
Probably.
I don't care. I'm going to keep it the way I am. Suck it! Suck it!
Big shock. Well, we got to end this here because I have to go get my dog out of the cold. So we'll just say, if you have a comment about this episode, you can find it. You can send an email to show@devrobotssociety.com. You can find me at Mastodon at Paul_E_Cooley at VYRSE.social. You can find find us on Facebook.
You can find us on Facebook
You
at.
know, I am so fucking
You
tired.
can find us on Facebook at.
Everybody's like, why don't you write this down? It's like, it's so much fun doing it.
Why
this
don't
way
you write this
instead.
down?
Why don't I write this down? I wrote stuff and things and stuff and blah. And you can find us on Facebook at the Dead Robot Society Facebook writing community. Well, I still fucked it up. The Dead Robot Society writing community, where Terry can kiss my ass. You can find us at YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast. And you can find us live every Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. CST. Like and subscribe so you always know when we put up our shenanigans there. And if you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast and buymeacoffee.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive live shows like the one we are doing in 8 minutes. And if you're at the $10 level, you get your names read, and your $10 patrons are Antoine Batts, Tony L. Joy, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Isabel Cushy, and Tim Niederreiter. Thank you to all of our patrons for making this show possible and helping us pay our StreamYard bills. We appreciate it. And with that, we are going to get out of here. Y'all, thank you very much for joining us and hanging out with us. It was always fun. And keep the writing, keep editing, and try not to bring up disco again with Terry. Please, please. In the